Most occult films get magic completely wrong. They use a pentagram, a Latin chant, and some special effects, and then they call it a day. The 7 films on this list are different. Each one puts a real occult idea on screen and treats it seriously. Gnosticism, witchcraft, voodoo, fairy faith, hyperstition, ritual practice, trance, possession, initiation, and lots more. Some of these directors clearly knew exactly what they were doing, putting real magic into the mainstream. Before The Matrix became the world's go-to metaphor for awakening, there was They Lived. John Carpenter's 1988 masterpiece works as a Gnostic reading of the modern world. It takes Plato's metaphor of the cave and turns it into an 80s buddy action flick with shotguns and aliens. They Live asks the viewer to put on a pair of magic sunglasses and to see the awful truth. Humans are farmed like cattle by alien intelligences that have turned the world into a prison for consciousness. See? Peekaboo, you've got archons, just like the Gnostics said. To show the viewer what they're missing, Carpenter employs 2 techniques from the French Situationist movement. The dérive, in which an individual drifts around the urban environment until they enter a trance state, in which messages can be divined from the information presented by a modern cityscape. The second is détournement, in which activist groups alter advertisements and signage to show the buried message hidden beneath the media manipulation. Seeing They Live solely as a political satire would be a mistake, though. They Live is an excellent visual metaphor for the synchronicities that begin to occur as one begins to practice real magic. For its perfect satirical mix of Gnostic and Situationist ideas, They Live deserves a place on any list of occult films that actually get the point. The Craft probably got more teenage girls into witchcraft than any other 90s movie, or any other movie period for that matter. The setup is simple. 4 outsider girls find power through ritual magic. At first, the magic gives them what every bullied teenager wants: beauty, revenge, confidence, a sense that the world can finally be pushed back against. Soon enough, they're magically transformed from awkward teenagers into the occult Spice Girls. But the movie also gives its audience a warning. Magic does not automatically make a person wise. It just turns up the volume on their psyches, warts and all. Landing in the middle of, and greatly contributing to, the mid-90s Wicca craze, The Craft had a generational effect, as women worldwide blew up the box office in search of their inner witch. Writing about the film 20 years later, Kristen Yoon-Soo Kim of Complex magazine declared the film a rite of passage for young women. The studio even hired Wiccan priestess Pat Devin as on-set occult advisor to ensure ritual accuracy. And lead actress Fairuza Balk even got deep enough into the material during production that she kept going after filming Wrapped. The actress eventually bought Panpipe's Magical Marketplace in Los Angeles, one of the oldest occult supply shops in the country, and ran it for years. The Craft works because it takes teenage pain seriously. That's also why it reached so many people. For a lot of viewers, especially young women who had no interest in the religion they were handed, the film presented witchcraft as a way to claim agency without asking permission, and to take power into one's own hands. Anna Biller's The Love Witch looks like a lost Technicolor film from the late 60s. The colors are lush, the costumes are perfect, and every frame feels built by hand, because much of it was. The film follows Elaine, a practicing witch who uses spells and ritual glamour to make men fall in love with her. The joke, and the horror, is that the spells work badly. They give Elaine what she asks for, but not what she actually needs. The director clearly did her research here, drawing much of the film's decor from real witchcraft and ceremonial magic traditions. Biller drew on Gardnerian and Alexandrian witchcraft while making the film. The symbolism, the colors, the tools, the specific language, is accurate in a way that most films don't bother with. Biller even created much of the set dressing and costumes herself, decorating Elaine's apartment with color schemes chosen from Crowley's Thoth Tarot, as well as a magic circle, an altar covered with real Enochian sigils. The result is one of the best occult films of the 21st century. It's gorgeous, genuinely unsettling, funny in ways that are hard to explain, and the magic in it is closer to the actual thing than almost anything in mainstream cinema. John Carpenter's homage to H.P. Lovecraft, In the Mouth of Madness, follows insurance investigator John Trent, played by Sam Neill, as he searches for missing horror author Sutter Kane. After surviving an inexplicable attack from an axe-wielding psycho, Trent is hired by a publishing house called Arcane to investigate their star author's disappearance. Kane's editor Linda accompanies Trent as they travel to Hobbs End, the town that Kane sets his horror novels in, much as Lovecraft did with Providence, Rhode Island. Soon enough, the pair discover that they're inhabiting Kane's fictional universe, which is being steadily made more real by Kane's readers investing belief in it. It's an entire town as a tulpa. The plot device of a writer's stories becoming real has been used everywhere from the Neverending Story to the Alan Wake games to the Lego movie, and it's a pretty familiar one by now. What makes In the Mouth of Madness more interesting, however, it's that it's actually Kane's readers who are making the fictional world possible with their beliefs, not the author. The books change reality because of what happens in the minds of the people who read them. That's a much older story and much closer to the actual occult. Though it goes back to ancient Mesopotamia, in some internet occult circles, this idea is referred to as hyperstition, stories, symbols, and ideas that function like self-fulfilling prophecies. They pull the future toward themselves by getting into enough heads. In the Mouth of Madness is basically a 95-minute horror illustration of hyperstition at work. Angel Heart, one of my favorite films of all time, and, for my money, the best occult noir ever made. Then Star Ticket Mickey Rourke plays a private detective hired by a man called Louis Cypher, in a legendary performance by Robert De Niro, to track down a missing crooner named Johnny Favorite. The film moves from 1955 New York to New Orleans and brings in voodoo imagery, blood, chickens, drums, possession, sex, guilt, and memory, leading up to one of the best slow burn reveals in all of American cinema. I'll go further. Angel Heart is the American Faust, a perfect take on the classic story of the deal with the devil. It's also full of on-location footage of Vodou ceremonies, and not the Hollywood version, but the real thing. 19-year-old Lisa Bonet, then world famous for starring in The Cosby Show, plays Epiphany Proudfoot, a young Vodou priestess who catches more than Rourke's attention. Though she delivers a stellar performance in the film, Lisa Bonet's involvement and explicit sex scene with Rourke scandalized 1980s America, with Angel Heart ultimately performing poorly at the box office and drawing heavy criticism from The New Yorker's Pauline Kael, as well as, ultimately, Bill Cosby himself, whatever that's worth these days. I'd avoid reading anything else about this one before watching it. Angel Heart is one of the few films left where the reveal still has teeth if you let it arrive on its own. Director Guillermo del Toro has been open about the research behind 2006's Pan's Labyrinth. The director apparently got the idea for the Baphomet-like faun from childhood experiences with lucid dreaming. The young del Toro would wake up each midnight to watch a faun gradually step out from behind a grandfather clock. To craft his surreal masterpiece, del Toro combined his childhood memories with older fairy lore, including stories where the other world was treated as a real place, with real inhabitants. He also placed his depiction of Pan in dialogue with dark fantasy writers including Jorge Luis Borges, Lord Dunsany, and even Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn initiates Arthur Machen and Algernon Blackwood. And just like in the old stories, del Toro's supernatural creatures are ancient and morally unpredictable, and the deals they offer comes with terms you might not fully understand until it's too late. Our young hero Ophelia figures this out the hard way when, like Inanna, she descends into the underworld in search of the keys to freedom. Set in Franco's Spain in 1944, the film pits the young Ophelia against Captain Vidal, one of the least subtle fascists since Street Fighter's M. Bison.
The day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Del Toro is making a political film, but he also uses fascism as a symbol of the ruthless, disenchanting force of day-to-day life. The fairy world and the fascist world are in direct opposition throughout the film, and Del Toro's argument is that the imagination and the willingness to believe in things you can't see is itself a form of resistance. Guillermo del Toro builds the film around fairy lore in the older sense, dangerous contact with the other world. The faun is not cute, safe, or morally simple. The tasks he gives aren't inspirational challenges. They are initiatory ordeals, and not just of Ophelia, but of the viewer. Wes Craven's The Serpent and the Rainbow is based on Wade Davis's nonfiction book about Haitian Vodou and the zombie phenomenon. Bill Pullman plays an ethnobotanist sent to Haiti to investigate reports of a powder that can turn somebody into a zombie. Throughout the film, Pullman's ethnobotanist goes in search of the substance used by Haitian bokors, or black magicians, to turn people into zombies. A pharma company back home has hired him to find it in hopes of synthesizing a super anesthetic. This not only leads to Pullman traveling to Haiti in the middle of the real-world revolution that brought down the brutal Duvalier government, but into a series of severe misadventures, including having a nail hammered through his genitals by the head of the Tonton Macoute, and even being buried alive with a tarantula. Voodoo in the film isn't just spooky set dressing. It's a complex practice tied to community, fear, punishment, spirit contact, and political power. The movie exaggerates quite a bit, but it also forces the viewer to sit with the possibility that the monster movie version may be less strange than the actual practice. Holding the rare distinction of being one of the only horror movies to be based on a pharmaceutical study, The Serpent and the Rainbow is pure B-movie fun if you have an evening to kill. So those are the 7. They Live, The Craft, The Love Witch, In the Mouth of Madness, Angel Heart, Pan's Labyrinth, and The Serpent and the Rainbow. And if any of them stayed in your head, subtly or overtly warping how you see reality, well, they did their job. If you want a clean starting map, I put a link to a free 15-minute course in the description. It gives you the basic structure behind all occult practices without asking you to believe anything up front. Watch it today or save it for the next time one of these films gets under your skin. Go check it out. I'll see you in class.